Hello everyone, welcome back to your weekly quantum teaching. This week we are going to be talking about quantum mysticism. As if I have not already been bringing this topic into every week's video, it only felt fit by this week's timing to share more about quantum mysticism and really bring in some of those examples from previous teachings to, again, as the mission proposes, build the logic with the esoteric, right? How the science and spiritual are actually evidential in our everyday experience. So quantum mysticism is sort of a modernized term, otherwise known as quantum woo-woo, to describe quantum mechanics, quantum theory, and the proposition that it is connected to all that is outside of creation, the universe, how life began, this very common esoteric principle to what our everyday life is and experience on Earth. And sometimes there are naysayers that will come in and say, well, it's very matter of fact, and this is all that it is, and this is all that we can make it out to be. But as I've said in every week's video and every teaching thus far, quantum mechanics is the most mysterious of the scientific physics realm. And so really it is an invitation to find that middle ground, that bridge between the actual facts and evidence that has been researched and studied, the ongoing technology that is continuing to study aspects of this esoteric world, consciousness, for example, and see that there is a connection. And that maybe we will leave this earth, each and every one of us individually, still having some sense of mystery and unknown to creation, and that's okay, and coming to surrender in terms with it, but also knowing that there are key things that if you are meant to learn and watch this video, you're going to come across this video and really learn what you need to learn, right? And so the timing for this, although there's other ideas and topics that have come through for different teachings throughout the rest of this month, my guides were very loud about this next topic being about quantum mysticism, right? The mysticism, the mystery of quantum theory and quantum mechanics. And some examples that I can really share with you guys that we've talked about in previous videos, for one, is the observer effect. This is probably the easiest example, which was part of the wave particle duality teaching. And the observer effect basically stated that particles, right, an object that was starting off as particles, when going through the slits of a wall, a double wall, what happens when the particles are moving according to the wave particle duality through the slits towards the double wall? Well, they found that the particles tend to exhibit a wave-like pattern in their movement as they got to the second wall, thus building almost the exact tattoo or placement of where those particles landed. And you can kind of think of like it started building like a wave-like graph. And so it proved that not only can particles move when put in this experiment as waves, right? That means they're changing states. It's going from a particle, from a solid essentially, into this wave-like state where when it's in movement, it's able to move, kind of like the way that sound travels, right? But it also remains as particles as if it's sticking like a magnet to the wall. So this was the observer effect, because the experiment stated that as we're observing these particles, this one thing in its solid state, in its state that we know it to be, it is a particle and that is all it is, going through this double wall, one of which the walls having slits, allowing the particles to move in different directions as it pleases, you find that the state of the particles change. When it's in movement, it starts to move in its wave-like format. And so the observer noticed that the particles changes its state. And this is essentially in equivalence to us and how when we observe things in our life, meaning the way that we address our attention and whatever we focus on magnifies, right? And so this sort of suggests in quantum mysticism that the quantum mechanics piece proves what you observe, you can essentially change the state of, right? Where your attention goes, the energy will flow. And so you are able to change the state of your circumstances, right? Just like the particles, the state of those particles had been changed, you too are able to change the state of your circumstances. And so that is just one example. Another example that I talked about in a previous video was quantum entanglement. This idea that no matter the distance between one state of being, one state of matter, one particle and the other, they still are able to be intertwined and linked in a way. And if one state of one thing changes in one location, the other thing, the other state will change in the other location. And the distance between those things has no relevancy to the way that the state is changed. And so quantum entanglement is very suggestive of consciousness, the way that consciousness operates, the way that our thoughts transverse outside into our reality, how we are able to draw things for us from a distance, meaning manifesting things from a distance in our lives simply by putting our attention towards it, and because we're connected to the all. And so quantum entanglement and quantum mysticism is essentially, while in physics it's sort of relating to how everything is connected, right? The saying, you become the 5 people that you're around the most, or how you are will affect the 5 people around you, and so they start to affect their network and so on, right? This sort of spider web effect. That's the sort of proof of quantum entanglement. But when you take it into the quantum mysticism side, the spirituality side, it's suggesting the law of one, of unity, of oneness, and how we are all linked. How you could be thinking of someone, for example, that you hadn't talked to in a while or hadn't seen in a while, and then all of a sudden they contact you, because regardless of the distance, there's an entanglement, there's a cord, there's a consciousness connection. The collective consciousness is still in you and you are in it. And so there is this connection in esotericism, in mysticism, that is related to this aspect of quantum physics. So not only with physical matter in our 3D world, with our particles and with the research, are we able to prove that things, no matter how far apart they are able to be affected if one state of the other is changed. This is the same with souls, with us living in this human experience, where we are essentially affected in ways as well by other things that happen around the world, by information, by what we learn, by what we experience. It can affect things around us. It shifts the timeline. So this is the idea of entanglement and mysticism. So another final example of quantum mysticism present in science is through quantum superposition. And so this is a new one that I have not taught in a recent video, but it's basically that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed or studied. So in spirituality, this is the same thing, the alignment to there being limitless possibilities, infinite potential, many possibilities. So if particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, what's that saying? And not only in relation to time, how time is not happening linearly, it's happening past, present, future at the same time. You know, we're in 2024, 1868 is playing out still as well, like that kind of element, but also in the sense of what is available to us. So in quantum mechanics, quantum theory, quantum superposition is stating that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously. A bird can be in flight while another bird could be eating on the ground, right? It could be sunny in one side of the world while it can be rainy or thunderstorming, a natural disaster in other parts of the world. And so these different states of existence can happen all at once, regardless of where they're at, but also at the same time, suggestive of quantum mysticism, the many possibilities that are available to us, right? And so, this is a very, I'm hearing out of this world teaching for this week, just to share with you all the nature of how everything is connected, and that regardless of how atomized, how particularized, how small it is, and what it is exactly like you're observing or studying, things can go to the scale that they can. So just like a graph, when you see a bar graph or a chart showing the trends, such is the state of all things, of all living things and non-living things, that things can change from a solid, liquid, gas. We've talked about in earlier videos. So too can the states of other aspects of our lives, right? You have to think in terms of quantum mechanics, we're not just talking about the 3D here, the very physical objects here. We're talking about how there's also multiple layers of dimensional consciousness happening at the same time. And so quantum mysticism is really the linkage between those other dimensions and the 3D. What we know in the 3D, what we're able to observe and study and witness with our human eyes in the 3D, we can witness that a particle changes its forms, that it's able to move regardless of distance, regardless of how it is moving, the fact that it can move and something else can move at the same time. In our eyes, we can see that proof. And then at the same time, there's these other dimensions, other veils that it coexist with us in the 3D. Dimensions haven't been proven, and this is something that I've talked about in another video as well. And so this plays out through quantum mysticism by particles essentially vibrating at different speeds, distances, presenting different states across different layers of consciousness, across different dimensional layers, essentially throughout different veils, right? And so you got one world over here and you got another world over here, but both worlds are still going to be playing out at the same time. A proven theory is through time, right? We've got the past playing out, we've got the future playing out, we've got the present right here. Time is not just linear. It's not that it just happened. It happened, but it's still playing out. I don't know who may accidentally come across this video I'm hearing, but for others who are interested and intrigued with this multi-layered concept, and just the reminder of this video that quantum mysticism, the mystery is that there are multiple things happening at once. And this is the point of this video, that it's okay for there to be a right in one thing, for one thing to be proven and for another thing not to be proven and still believable, right? In the spiritual esoteric world, quantum mysticism will continue and always be representing aspects of mysteries, that things that will not be able to be studied in our time but will be studied at a later date, I'm hearing. So, but be open to the fact that someone in China with the same financial upbringing as you could still live a completely different life than you, could still have a different mental state or perspectives. Again, there's multiple layers, multiple veils, and quantum mysticism is the reminder that in life, in science, in spirituality, there will always be new discoveries. If you at least believe in science, if not spirituality at all, know and remember that science has proven every single decade, right? Every single generation that there are multiple layers and always new discoveries that will come to the forefront. And something doesn't need to come to the forefront of a physical world 3D matrix discovery for it to be real, for it to be believable, for there to have meaning or connection to it, for other people around the world to have experienced it. And I think that more people in the world will be awakening to this. So just remember the experiments that we talked about today. If anyone ever brings up in conversation, show me examples of quantum mysticism. What is it? It is the observer effect, the observer experiment through the wave particle duality. It is quantum entanglement, and it is quantum superposition, okay? All of these are basically explaining how particles, regardless of distance, regardless of, speed, regardless of what is around it, regardless of the environment, has a way to change its state just like we do. We have a way to change the state of our life, the state of this world, the state of the universe, but also be humble in knowing that everything has its place and position, and quantum mysticism is that reminder. So again, let me know if this video resonated, if it was helpful. Share with those that you know. Comment, like, subscribe, all that if my channel is helpful for you. This came through this week as a heavy channeling on quantum mysticism, and next week we will be talking about other quantum mechanics, quantum theory topics. So do stick around if this interests you. Thank you so much, collective, and until next time, go and grow.